Thank you very much to Selena for giving us our next Would You Rather question. I'm very excited.
Would you rather always have an annoying song stuck in your head, like one that you hate, or have an itch that you'll never be able to reach?
Oh,
See, everybody's just making really good would you rather questions. That's a great question.
that is a great
Oh, a
question.
really bad song or a really bad itch?
I'm
Ainsley?
gonna choose song.
I also am going to choose song.
Yeah.
Give me the worst song you got.
Oh yeah.
Don't want the itch. Welcome to Second Saturday, the podcast where every Sunday feels like a Saturday.
This is episode 44, and I'm Ainsley.
This is Jen reporting live from not her normal location. Newscaster Jen.
Today we're talking about with different animals that we dealt with at the lodge. I know we had an episode related to bears. Very familiar territory for you right now.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
we have a few other animal incidents that happened.
We did. We're going to do another
Yes.
Lodge Life deep dive, and we're going to talk about some of the animal encounters that we had. We talked about some. We're going to talk about a few more, and these are
Yeah.
like more like pest control. I feel
Yeah. Yeah.
this is like a pest control episode,
Definitely.
and how we dealt with
Like
pests.
call the exterminator.
I literally was. Listen, there
You
were some
were.
days that I was the exterminator. I was. What do we have? We have a gentleman up here. It's a company. I think it's Orkin. Call him the Orkin guy. I was the Orkin gal for quality
Oh
pest
my goodness.
exterminating. But first, would you rather,
First.
Ainsley, you would rather have an extremely annoying song stuck in your head?
Yeah. I feel
Discuss.
like I'm already used to it. I feel like we both have mentioned this. We're both very similar. How we always have songs going on, and sometimes I have songs that I don't want stuck in my head. So I'm already used to it, and I feel like it's way better than an itch. Like having like a mosquito bite that's just constantly itchy, and like you can scratch as hard as you can. Like to me,
Right?
that's just way more difficult to deal with than like a song playing in my head.
I completely agree with you 100%. And what happens if the itch is somewhere you can't get at it? Like,
Exactly.
I mean, an itch that never goes away is annoying as all
Yeah.
get out. And probably you're going to yeah, you're going to itch it and itch it. It's going to be bad. You're going to end up
Yeah.
having a medical something, something with it. Um,
Definitely.
every day I wake up with a song playing in my head. Like
Yeah.
this morning, I got up at 5:37 this morning.
Whoa. Whoa.
Um,
Whoa.
and like annoying stuff in my head already. It's either a movie or a song, but generally a song.
Yeah.
Even if it's an like stupid, annoying, something you absolutely hate, I can still live with that. I can still sing it. I can still live with it. So I also am choosing
Exactly.
an annoying song every time. Great question,
That
Selena.
was a really
That
good
was a really
question.
tough choice between like sucks and sucks even more.
Yeah.
Like, what's the worst of the two evils? I love that. So thank you so much for sending in your question,
Yes.
Selena.
We really
Forgot
appreciate
to do
it.
this last time, but I'm going to send it out to our audience. Which would you rather do? Would you rather have that annoying song stuck in your head, the one you absolutely hate forever and ever, or would you rather have an annoying itch that never goes
Yeah.
away? Oh,
That's just they
two
both
horrible
are just
choices.
yeah. There's no winning. There is no winning in that situation.
There's no winning. What's the lesser evil in this one,
Exactly.
basically?
Like there is no silver
So,
lining. You in most of our questions you can somehow find that silver lining that will make it enjoyable. There isn't that in this.
but I think that's why I like this question.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just it's just the crap. Which crap
Yes.
do you want? Do you want crappy or
Oh
crappy?
crappy.
Crappy? Crappy or crappy? I love it. Anyways, we're throwing it out to you, audience. Which would you
Yes.
rather do? Please leave us a message in the comments. I'd love to see I'd be interested to see who'd choose the itch.
Oh, me too. Like that'd
That
be
would be
man.
interesting. And if you do choose the itch, please expand on why, because I
You'd
would be
have to have
really interested.
like a really strong will to you to live with that, to not just like absolutely lose your mind.
100%.
Oh,
Oh,
you're a very strong person if you can do that.
yeah. Kudos to you because we can't. We're going with the bad song.
Yeah.
that song all day long because
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, there's lots of songs that annoy me, but I'll still sing them. Heck, there's lots of genres that I don't like, and I will go out to like an event, and it's not a genre that I like at all. But I don't know all the words. I'll still sing it,
Oh
even if
yeah.
I hate it. I'm like, oh, this is an annoying song.
I'm the
La
same
la la
way.
la la. I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll do it. I don't mind. That's
Don't
awesome.
mind. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna as you can see, I am
Well,
in a new
hold on.
location today. We should
I
talk
would
about
like to
this.
point out that quite a few episodes ago, I think I've done it for 2 episodes now. I was in a new location and I had to hang on to my mic. And someone made a lot of fun of me, made fun of me a lot. Man, my English is not there today, about having to hang on to it and I wasn't prepared. And look who is hanging on to her microphone.
I know. This sucker's heavy too. Like this thing weighs. It's got some heft to it. I do. I feel like I am like a reporter reporting live in the field.
Yeah.
Like I'm just gonna. I'm having way too much fun
Yeah.
with this in my new location. But I am at a different location today, as we can all tell.
Yes.
I've got this lovely bear. Oh, I should have
So
like leaned right
soft.
back because it's really soft. Got this lovely bear. I'm not showing his head, but he's a lovely
He's
bear.
up there.
That my son shot.
Yes.
And so he is my behind the scenes. It kind of looks that I don't have any hair today. Like it looks like I've cut all my hair off, and
Yeah.
I'm kind of having fun with that.
You know what? It's okay. We all love days in a new location, but it's kind of fitting for our little wildlife themed episode.
Ooh, it is actually it
Ooh.
is. Isn't that
It
funny?
is.
It totally
Yeah.
is.
We
Yeah.
needed that for when we
So
did our bears, bears, bears.
I s- I was in the wrong spot, man.
You were
Well, I'm really glad I'm not like at like bats, 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 or or mice,
just like
mice,
a
mice.
swarm of bats flying around your head all. Oh my goodness.
Right? I will pass on that. We're gonna
Yeah.
skip the weather today because it's still the same old days. Now we're talking about it, and we're still in the heart of fire season. So we'll
Yeah.
discuss fire season next week.
Yes.
Because we want to talk about our lodge life deep
Yeah.
dive today, and that is like all the pests that we had to deal with and the lovely pest control. So
Yeah.
we've got a
Like
few fun stories about that.
the pests that were more like I know we talked about bears, how they did sometimes cause problems, but like that
Yeah,
was like maybe one problem a summer, maybe. This was
yeah,
like multiple times a summer, every single summer.
every single
So it
summer.
really needed to be put under control.
And the more that like I'm thinking about what we're going to talk about bats because we had bats at the lodge.
Yep.
We had mice because
Yes.
we're on an island and we were in an old lodge, and then we're gonna talk about geese because those were our
Yes.
3 that, like, came back every year,
Yeah.
and we had to deal with
They
them,
never
like,
learned.
multiple times.
They never learned.
So they never learn. They never learn. And now that I think more and more about it, there's more and more stories that are, like, coming into my
Yeah.
head out of all because that was ongoing, all the years.
Hmm.
Wasn't just like you said, like a one-off, and now
Yeah.
all those memories and those stories are coming back to me. So, I think we should start off with mice.
Mice?
'Cause that was the first thing, and I remember when your dad and I first bought the lodge, um, the people that we bought it from, they would put out mothballs throughout all the different cabins and the main lodge and things like that to deter the mice. I can confirm with everybody out there right now, doesn't work.
Yeah.
We
Same.
had
Like I will attest to this in more of a modern day level as well. One of the houses I lived in over the last few years for school had like the little things you plug into the wall that are supposed to deter mice, and we
oh,
had a huge mouse problem. So
it doesn't work.
yeah,
Mothballs just
sometimes
make
those things
everything
don't work.
stink. And they had just scattered them like all over the floors and stuff like that. And the first day that my husband and I moved up to the lodge, the other people hadn't been there for most of the summer, so the mice had moved in. It took us about, I want to say 4 years to plug all the loose end holes, like from extra plumbing and things like that, to keep all the mice out of the main lodge, like the main cabin
Yeah,
where we
I
had like our
never I
kitchen.
never thought about that. But now that you say that, like you guys used like a spray foam, didn't you? Because I remember there was like these little orange clumps of like this foam sprayed everywhere to kind of.
We
fill
did spray
in.
foam. We also, like, boarded things up,
Yeah.
and just kinda tightened up different areas. But the very first day that I remember we moved in after we had purchased it, we went to it, we opened the main door to the main lodge, and all you could see all over the floor was just mouse poo. Like, you couldn't step anywhere, and we're like, "Oh my god." Um, and it was everywhere. Even we had a bedroom in the back of the, main lodge. There, there was mouse poo in between the covers, so the
Oh.
first night your dad and I stayed there, we didn't even sleep under the covers. We slept in our clothes on top. When we went though, we knew we were gonna have issues with mice. And so we had gotten some industrial mouse um like pellets, poison pellets, to deal with the mouse situation we knew we were about to come into. And so what these little bricks do is you put them out and then mice will nibble at them and they'll eat them. And then it will make them thirsty and they will exit the building that they're in and go for a water source. And when they drink the water, it causes whatever the reaction is and it causes them to have like a bleed and are they are deceased.
Yeah.
And at least it's out of the building that you're in. So you don't have that other extra, thing on top of it. So when your dad and I first were there, I remember every night we would set these little briquettes and they were in these little paper packets and we'd set them all out in like every corner of every room. And like, we had whatever the main dining room, we had the kitchen, we had the back and our bedroom. And so every night we would set those out and every morning we would come in the next morning and there would be no remnants of it at all.
Oh
Like
my
none.
goodness.
There wasn't a flick of paper. And we had it in a 5-gallon pail, all these little pellets. And then we noticed that they had actually jumped into the pail and were nibbling out of that. Um,
That's
so
crazy.
they were an ongoing problem. But what was our best solve, Ainsley, when we
We
had mouse issues like that?
we had a nice little invention. It's a fabulous mouse trap that we like to call the mouse bucket. Um, I have since made one in my college career, but basically it's a 5 gallon pail that you get, and you put a few inches of water in the bottom, and then you take like you get a wire, I guess is what you get, and you put a
String
pop
of wire.
can.
Yeah.
Yeah, you put a pop can on the wire and tie the wire to either side of the top of the bucket. You put a little bit of peanut butter on the can, and then you lean a stick on the bucket so that they can crawl up and get onto the wire. And then when they crawl across the wire and try and get the peanut butter, they spin off and fall in the bucket and eventually drown. But that was like the best solution we had to getting rid of mice whenever we had mice coming in and out of the cabin.
Yeah. They were out of control.
Yeah,
And the best part about a mouse bucket is that you're not gonna just use one trap and get one mouse,
yeah,
because
you
you
get
never if you have one mouse,
multiple.
you have an entire mouse family.
Yeah,
There's never just one. So we could get a mass group of them eradicated, in a pretty timely fashion. I remember one time when we finally did build our cabin, you guys were just teeny tiny in our cabin, but we couldn't find it because we had a few things, stored along the
hmm,
sides of the wall. So we put the mouse bucket in that night and I remember laying there in my bed and I could hear it like walking
yeah.
across the floor. I'm like, come on, you little SOB. And all of a sudden I heard, and then all of a sudden I heard sploosh. And I was like, yeah, I've never been more excited to hear a little tiny splash of water.
Oh
Because
my
I
goodness.
mean, like they get into everything. They
Yeah,
eat your wiring. They're so smart. I have actually, had a mouse unscrew a ketchup lid before.
yeah.
And
They're smart. I always hated when I knew there was like a mouse in the cabin because I was like, it's gonna jump on my bed, it's gonna get me, sort of thing. Like I was
yeah,
just little. I do remember one
yep.
time, the one we had like a before the lounge became your bedroom, in the main lodge. It was a lounge that we had for our guests.
Mhm.
And I remember I think we had family up. I don't know what it was exactly, but I remember my brother and I were in there probably watching something on the DVD player, and there was a mouse that came in. And I remember we saw it and we went and got you. And I remember, I don't know who it was, if it was my dad or some other family member, but someone at one point had like a kettle. Someone had the poker chip case, and they were trying to like squish the mouse between the wall and whatever they were hanging on to. And I just remember we were told to like leave, but there was a window that connected between the dining room and the lounge. I
Yes,
remember it was open. I remember
you're
both of
sitting in
us
it.
were just like, what the heck is happening? We're watching you guys like just running around this room trying to squish this mouse between the wall and like a heavy
I think we
object.
had a corn broom. I'm pretty sure it was your dad and I,
Yeah.
and we had a corn broom because those things work great to whack. It's like whack-a-mole, but it was whack-a-mouse. So I believe I was the one that was running around with the broom trying to whack it and scare it out of
Yeah,
whatever.
I
And
think
your
dad
dad
had
was
the
there ready to like
poker chip case
chase.
because it was pretty heavy and they were trying to squish this mouse. I can like vividly remember that, like just oh,
Yeah.
it was quite the
The
experience.
first the first, fall that we had it, because we took possession of our, lodge in, I think it was September-ish, so we were getting it ready. We had wanted to do a lot of renovations and a few things we wanted to get up and running before first season. So, your dad and I had brought in a ton of lumber. We had brought in, some different, other big items to try
Yeah.
and, repair and replace and things like that. So we had, um, in the area that we had on the side of our lodge, which was kind of our lounge, it originally was just a screened-in porch, but they only one wall had screen. The rest of the screen was ripped out. So when we first got there, we were bringing in all kinds of lumber supplies because we had to rebuild outhouses. We had to do some repairs on some buildings. So we had all that lumber stored in the screened in porch because at least it was, it had a roof on it. So it was kind
Yeah.
of protecting the lumber. And I can remember it was just him and I because we were really young at this time. And I can remember coming out of the shower. And so I've got my hair up in a towel and I'm in my pajamas and I'm out there and it was a game between me and the mouse. Like he was trying to peek out from all this lumber and I've got this little broom and I'm just waiting for him to go and just like whack him
Yeah.
one. And my husband's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Listen, I live on an island right now. I got to make my own fun." And that's where the phrase, "I make my own fun"
Yeah.
came
Oh,
because,
really? I had no idea.
yeah.
Playing
And
with a
so yeah,
mouse.
for like 10 or 15 minutes, I did get him. I remember that. But I just remember being in my jammies. I got my hair all up in this big
Yeah.
towel, and there I am with this broom, just looking ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just,
We
we had lots of those.
yeah. So we always had
But it
lots
was
of mouse buckets set up around the outside of the building and we
every
always
fall.
had yeah, we
Remember,
always had lots of mice.
we would put windshield wiper fluid in it because it doesn't freeze.
Yeah.
Or antifreeze, and we would put them in the fall because generally that's when mice are trying to get into buildings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So before we left, we always put mouse buckets in, and it got to the point where we would come back in the spring and there weren't any. Like we did a really good job of. It took some time, but we did a really good job of
Yeah.
eradicating them.
I
So
really don't
we do.
remember there being that many mice at the second lodge.
No, because the other people that we purchased that from, they had that
That's true. They had it
well
under
sealed up.
control and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And there've been lots of modifications to the very first lodge that we owned.
Yeah.
So, when you're doing modifications, then you're adding on and, changing plumbing. Well, then you've
Yeah.
got teeny tiny, like, drill holes. It doesn't take much.
No.
Mice are,
They
they can
can
get
get
through.
they can get through anything.
It's
It is
crazy.
it is really crazy. They will find their way. They will find their way through.
They will. Actually, before your dad and I bought this lodge, we managed another lodge before we bought that one. And so I had all this kitchen staff. It was a pretty big lodge at the time. But anyway, when we got in the summer, I would give each of the couple of staff a mouse trap, and then we would have a contest. And so you had to pick the spot that you would like your mouse trap to
Yeah.
be, and then it was a thing to see who could catch the most mice over the summer. And I found this one spot, and it produced all the time. It was the winning space. But that's what we would do. Like, okay, here's yours where you're setting it. Here's yours where you're setting it,
Oh my
and then we would
goodness.
go around. When you live
Yeah.
in the middle of nowhere, in the forest, and you got a building, they're gonna
You
try
gotta
and
do what
come
you
in.
gotta do.
You gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta make your
Yeah.
own fun.
But
So
that
if
wasn't
you gotta catch them, make it fun.
you gotta catch them. That wasn't
You gotta
your
catch them.
only extermination job. You had
No.
another one. You had a
We
few
also had
incidents with
bats.
bats. Yeah.
And listen, bats were not a bad thing because they eat copious
Oh yeah.
amounts of mosquitoes. So you would see them around at night all the time. They never really gave us grief like in the evenings and stuff like that, but it was kind of neat to watch them and just I
Yeah.
can't remember how, like they just eat a ton of mosquitoes. So we didn't want to like get rid of them, but we just needed to relocate them
Yeah.
because they were in the main lodge in the ceiling and they were in one of the cabins as well, and there was a bit of a crack from the ceiling, and so we were always having to clean up a little bit of a mess that the bats would do, on a regular basis, but we had them in the main lodge,
Mhm.
And I remember, you weren't born yet. I
No,
was
you were
pregnant for
pregnant
you.
with me.
I was pregnant for you, and we discovered where they were in the ceiling. And of course, it was an add-on, like where they were.
Yeah,
So
so the
anyway,
the lounge part, wasn't it?
yeah, where
Yeah,
it
which
used to be the
was
screen-in porch that
the
became the
roof was
lounge.
a little bit lower in relation to the main lodge,
Yeah,
right?
about 2 feet.
Yeah,
Yep, it was about 2 feet from the regular roof peak.
yeah,
And so when we figured this out, and it was a log cabin, so it's these round logs, and then they were trying to build onto that too. So we could tell
yeah.
that they were getting up, inside that. And so I think I was about, I don't know, 4 months pregnant. Oh, Grandpa was so mad at me because my dad was working there at the time. But my
Would have been
husband, he
more than
got this.
that, wouldn't you? Like, I was born in
Pardon?
August.
Well, okay, so then I would have been more than that.
You'd
Yeah,
have been,
maybe it
like,
was 5. Like it was right at the
5 to
beginning though. Like it would have
6.
been in May, June, July, August. So it would have been
Okay.
5 months
Yeah,
pregnant.
yeah.
And anyway, my husband had this insect repellent spray called Conk, and like it will make you grow a
It'll
third
oh,
arm.
yeah.
That stuff is so
It'll
potent.
get rid of
So
whatever you need it to get rid of.
he's he's in there and he's standing on a chair and he's spraying this pesticide in the grooves of
Yeah.
where these logs are, and these poor bats start coming out because they can't breathe and whatever. And I'm sitting there and I have a tennis racket at this point. We found an old tennis racket, and so I've got that thing. I got it cued right up like a baseball bat. My dad is yelling at me from the entranceway because like there's all this
Yeah.
chemical. I'm pregnant with you. You're fine. You're good. I
Well,
think
I
so.
turned out great.
Anyways, so all these bats would start flying out, and my poor husband, he would just hit the deck as low as he could, and I was by the door because they were all exiting out the door, and I was just like, shoo, shoo, and I was just hitting them off the side, like hitting them with the tennis racket off the side of the wall, and then my husband's there with the corn broom trying to take care of them. So,
Oh my
anyways,
maybe that's where
we
your
got a
love for
whole
tennis
whack of
came
them.
from.
I had an ace every time, man.
Oh, yeah.
So we did that for a little bit, and then as we were spraying it, my dad was outside, and he could see outside in the roof exactly where they were coming in from the outside. So as soon as we found that out, my husband, he kept spraying inside like the building, so it was
Yeah.
going up into the attic. I then crawl on to the roof, and this I'm on
The lower
to the
roof.
lounge roof that's
Yeah.
a couple of feet lower than the regular one because we can see exactly where they're coming out, and there was a bit of an overhang. So I now have a small little 2x4 that we've cut, and I'm right by the edge of the roof. My dad is still yelling at me. And it was just like they came shooting out of there, just like choo, 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 choo. And I've got this little 2x4, and I'm like, whack, 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 whack. But I only had like so far that I could whack it. And I'm trying to, and there was like easily 100 bats
Yeah.
that came out of this. It was so much fun, like a ridiculous amount of fun. So anyways, so I mean there was
Oh my
dad's
god.
mad, I'm having fun. My poor husband's in there spraying away. So anyways, after they had all exited, we got some steel wool and we kind of like stuffed it in all the cracks and crannies and stuff like that. And we were able to get them out of that building, which then they relocated to one of our
Yeah,
cabins.
we did another
And then after
cabin.
that, after a few years, well, several years, because you would have been in grade 3, I'd say, when you made the bat houses. Is that
Yeah.
right? Yeah, so then we
Yeah.
started putting bat houses up to try and get them to
Yeah,
relocate,
'cause they would
because we
kinda
didn't.
they would kinda go under the roof again of one of our cabins, and they didn't really
Yeah,
cause any problems, but sometimes we'd have guests complain because 'cause they'd make noise
yeah,
in the roof, and it would keep
they
them
were
up and
loud in
stuff
the
like that.
evenings.
Yeah.
Um, but then because we didn't wanna, like, eradicate them, we just wanted
Yeah.
to relocate them because they were so good for, like, mosquito control. Like, they could just, gobble up a gazillion mosquitoes at the end of the night. So anyways, but yeah, I can just remember being pregnant. I can remember my dad yelling at me, and I'm just with this tennis
Whack.
racket, just firing off swing after swing. My husband was literally on the floor like this, just so that he
Oh
wouldn't get
my
hit by
god.
it. And
That's awesome.
you do what you gotta do.
You do.
Make your own fun, you do what you gotta do, and,
That was kind of our
that's just
I remember I don't know
they've got.
if I mentioned it. I feel like maybe I've mentioned it, but when we moved into the second lodge, it was a few years after we'd owned it, but I remember we had a problem with one bat there had gotten into a cabin. And I think the guests had told us that like it was when they left for like they had
Yes.
left and you and I had to clean. I believe they're out of there. And they told us that, hey, like, I think there's a bat in here, blah blah blah. So I remember we had a fishing net
Yep.
And we were looking around. We couldn't find this bat anywhere. Like it's not a very big cabin. There's a main room and two
Mhm.
bedrooms. Everything's open. Like and all the
Yeah.
walls are white. Like it was so difficult.
It
But
could be 600 square feet total. It wasn't a
yeah,
big cabin at
like it
all.
wasn't big at all. We couldn't find this. I remember we were looking and
We
looking,
looked everywhere.
and I think you had gone out like out of the cabin, and I was just
Mhm.
like, "What the heck?" And each cabin had like a different like 60s couch. Like they were these
Yeah.
old couches with these
They were all
weird,
pull-out couches.
yeah, weird patterns and things like that.
Yep.
And I remember I'd gotten down like on my hands and knees, kind of looking around, and I looked on the couch and I saw this little bump because the couch was like white with black spots on it. And the bat was only like it was a really small bat and it was laying
That's
on the
small.
couch. And so you could just see this little lump. And I was like, I found the bat. I found the bat. And I remember we had to get it with a fishing net and get it out of there.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
We also had you know what? They used to come down through the stovepipes, like, we
yeah.
talked about how the mosquitoes used to come down. Well, if you left those 2 flues open, bats would also come
Yeah.
in as well, so that's how the bat got in there, and we ended up in our cabin, like, just our family cabin when you were guys were really little too, we ended up having a bat in the cabin as well, and your dad and I were staying we were sleeping in twin beds at the time, and so we're in our bedroom, we're at either side of the room, and we're in our twin beds, and all of a sudden you hear and you could hear the stupid bat. So I remember your dad flicked on the light when it's flying around, and it was I don't know what time in the middle of the night, and your dad shut the light off, and he looked at me, he's like we both were like, "Meh." So we just pulled the covers each over top of our heads because we were so tired. Like, you're working,
Yeah.
like, dog hours, and so we were like, "Ah, we'll get it another time." So we just pulled the covers over our heads, and the next morning, I think he was, like,
Yeah.
attached to the drywall or whatever, so
Yeah.
yet again, we got another net and we we
Scooped
released
them
him
and let them go
outside,
outside.
but we were so tired. Like, when you deal with all these things, it doesn't even phase you
Yeah.
anymore. You're like, "Yeah, okay, it's another bat,
Like, I
okay."
remember when
So
I
we
got older, like, the thought of a mouse didn't bother me as much. I was like,
Yep,
"Okay, I'll put the covers over my head as well so it doesn't, poop on my
right.
face," but
So you're
but you got
you
really
just
used
become
to
immune
it.
to it.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. It's not a
Yeah.
big deal at all.
It's like the
Oh my
same thing
gosh,
with, like,
that's
the bears, like, they came into camp and it just was what it was. Like,
yeah.
it didn't you weren't like, obviously, it's a bear, you don't really wanna see it, but you weren't like,
No, but
"Oh
you were
my
calm. You
god, it's
never
a
got, like,
bear." Yeah.
heightened and freaked out because you were just calm because you saw them, you knew what to do, and whatever. Like you knew where you needed
Yeah.
to go or who you needed to let know. Um, but yeah, same with mice, and they don't even phase me anymore. Like
Yeah.
never. I can see one. There it is.
Yeah.
Doesn't even phase me. Bats
Yeah.
don't phase me. Yeah. And then the other big issue we used to have every summer, Ainsley,
Geese. The good old Canadian goose.
good old Canadian goose. God, love them.
They,
Oh, they used to drive us nuts.
yeah, like, they really don't, like they don't harm you, but they make a mess
Oh,
because they just
and
they
here's the
poop
thing.
everywhere.
Yeah, so the Canadian geese would come and be on our property before we even got there in the spring.
Yeah.
So you would get there and there'd be like 20 or more geese just hanging out on your lawn, and the lawn's just slick as all get out because as fast as they're eating the grass, it's coming out the other end.
Yeah.
And they had already like taken territory on our lawns before we even got there to start the
Yeah.
season. So it was really hard to get them to go away. And what did we do? What would we do? Well,
Well,
first of
you
all,
couldn't
once we got the dog, that was nice,
oh, yeah,
but
they didn't really come much after that, but, like, you would try and yell at them and scare them away, but they just fly into the water and come on back, so eventually
5
I
minutes they'd be
remember
back.
oh, yeah, yeah. So I remember we'd shoo them into the water and then get in the
Mhm.
boat and chase them.
Yes.
Like, we never hit the geese, nothing like that. They were flying, but you would chase them, like, well into the middle of the lake and, like, around an island and try to get them up onto another piece of
S
land. And you'd have to do that,
Right.
like, 2 or 3 times
Several
before
times.
they were like, "Okay, yeah, we're not gonna come back." But I can remember being in the boat and I'd be sitting in the front, you just saw this huge flock of geese just, like, flying above the water in front of you, just, like, trying to go as fast as they can, and you're just giving her the boat, just trying to get them. Yeah,
It
that
was
was
fun
our
though, wasn't
it
it?
was fun, it was a lot of fun chasing
It was
them.
fun.
It
Ah,
worked. After a few times, they're
and
like,
that was
"Oh, okay, we're not gonna mess with you anymore."
nope, every spring,
Yeah.
and it would take several go arounds to try and get them to find
Yeah.
somewhere else to hang out, because it's just messy and nasty and, nobody wants to walk through that all the time, and,
No.
I mean, when we weren't there, because they get there well before we did, so they were well established, and they were
Yeah,
thinking, "Man, this is a nice
it's a
little piece
nice
of
little
property we got
yeah,
going on here." And then when we got here, we're like, "Yeah, no."
you
And
gotta
then once
go.
we had the dog, then, I mean, he could never catch a goose,
No,
but
but he
he
would
would just
chase
run
them.
out and
Yeah.
enough to deter them, and we would just kept and he'd come back and we're like, "Oh, good boy, you got them.
Yeah,
You got them,
you
good
got
boy." And he'd be so excited, so
yeah.
we'd get a little treat. So after a
But
while,
then they wouldn't
it didn't take much.
yeah, but it was always so much fun. That was like our eviction notice. You gotta move
Oh, yeah.
out.
Like, "In the boat, get in the
Chase
boat,
them
we're gonna go
out.
chase the geese."
Yeah. I can remember that. I remember running to the boat to get in, and I'd be sitting at the front, and you just watch them just like go as fast as they can. It was
And
cool
you're
to
sitting
watch.
there
Yeah.
in a little fishing boat, a little 16-foot fishing boat with a 9-9, you're just like, and
Yep.
you just like pin it. And you're like
Yeah.
going this fast, but whatever.
Yeah.
It was a little,
So
we thought it was
no
fun.
geese were ever harmed, but it was it was quite fun to see them fly off like that.
Oh, it was
Because
totally
then they'd
entertaining.
slowly
No,
migrate back. All of a sudden, they'd be back in the bay, and they'd be just in the water. And you're like, okay, and then they'd slowly come in, and then all of a sudden, they were starting to crawl onto the land, and we're like, oh, back in the boat we
yep.
go.
Just the other day, last week, beginning of this week, at some point, I let Garmin out one morning, and all of a sudden, there was a there was like two parent geese and about six goslings.
Oh yeah,
And so we have quite an approach that goes down, like a boat launch that goes down to the water off of our property. And so those two big geese take off, and the little goslings are just running for their life down the little gravel path into the water. And he just was like, "Oh, what's going on?"
yeah,
And they didn't come back, but I was like, "Oh, you don't even hear them. You don't even know." All of a
yeah.
sudden, you look out. Hey, we'd be at the lodge, and you'd
Oh
look
yeah,
out.
they'd
There's
just be
like a
there
dozen geese. They'd just be
because
there, like
they wouldn't like unless like they really wouldn't make it. Like they wouldn't do their little like honking or anything unless you were
no,
chasing them. Like otherwise, they're just there because no one's disturbing them. So why are they making noise? You know?
right?
Yeah, it'd be crazy. Like the grass would just be covered in geese. Yeah.
And geese poo.
Oh,
Oh,
that this is
so
the worst, and
annoying.
it smells as well. Oh,
Oh, stuck in your shoe. Oh, it was just nasty.
and the
Nasty
lawnmower,
nasties.
geese poo going
Oh,
flinging around.
right. Speaking about the lawnmower, we should talk about that old lawnmower. We had a riding lawnmower
Oh
and the
god.
starter didn't work. So you'd have to wrap a rope around
Yep.
and we got lots of stories,
Oh
man.
yeah.
We got tons more to go.
I have lawnmower
Um,
stories for even just at the house, like in town. I got a good one for that as well.
oh yeah. We should have a lawnmower day.
We should have a lawnmower day.
Have a lawnmower day, man. Have a lawnmower day.
Yeah.
But yeah, those were some of the lovely pests that we had to deal with at the lodge. And
Yep.
eradicating them, we always made it fun because what else are you gonna do,
What? There's you have
right?
no other form of entertainment.
You live on an island, man.
Yeah. No service, no internet, no power.
Oh,
Gonna chase geese and play whack-a-mole with mice and
with mice
bats.
and the bats. Oh my gosh, play tennis with the bats.
Oh,
Um, yeah, just silly, stupid stuff.
yeah.
But you made it fun. You
Yeah,
gotta get rid of them
exactly.
some way, so you might as well make it a fun way, right?
Exactly.
Love that. That was a great lodge life deep dive,
That
Ainsley.
is.
That was kind of fun. Just think, like, when we talk about these stories, like I'm literally reliving them in my head
Yeah.
as we're explaining them. Like I can picture the day. I can
Oh,
picture,
I can
exactly
see
the
it all
cabin.
so clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember you 2 sitting in that windowsill because it was an outside wall originally until they built the
And,
screen-in porch, which we made a lodge.
and
So it
the
had a regular window.
it did, and the lounge, like, was a step down. So, we
Yeah,
were all like it was like the dining room was kind of at our height, and then we could see everything perfectly because the lounge was, like, whatever, half a foot
yeah.
lower.
But I remember you and your brother hanging out that window,
Yeah.
watching us trying to
Oh, I
get the
love that
stupid mouse.
window.
Um, there was one time too that, your brother brought frogs into
Oh,
our cabin,
I
and we
remember
weren't
this
sure. We
a
thought that
little
there
bit.
was 4, we were hoping there was 4, and then we had to try and find them all, and they were in our bedroom. Do you remember that?
I remembered a little bit.
Oh,
I
good
remember
times.
because he
You
loved
guys used to
catching
catch
frogs.
frogs,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you'd put them in a poor little pail. You'd be sitting out in the hot, hot sun, and, we always told you that the frogs had to go home at the end of the day, but
Yep.
I can remember your dad, so he'd be walking around the property doing stuff, and so he'd walk by that pail, and he'd just slowly tip it over, and he'd go on and do his stuff, and he'd come back a couple minutes, he'd walk back, he'd tip it back up because all the frogs had leaked
Frogs,
off, and you
yep.
guys, like, would come back, like,
Yeah.
5, 10 minutes later, like,
Where are our
"Frogs," and your dad like,
frogs?
"Oh, I think they went home."
Because we had,
You guys
I know we talked about how we got that little like electric Jeep that I got for my birthday. We used to take that and we'd go frog hunting and we'd drive along the shore. We'd stop because there was one kid who would always come up every year, and him and my brother he was so nice. He was quite a bit older than us, and he'd play with my brother time. But they'd go frog hunting. I can remember we'd have like our bucket in the back, where the back of it has like a little bit of like almost like a little trunk or
It
whatever, like a
did.
truck bed,
Yeah,
and we'd put the
it
frogs
did.
in there. I remember
Oh
we had
my
leaves and
god.
stuff in there, but we would drive up and down the shoreline and stop and go look for frogs and put them in the back of the Jeep and keep going.
Frog hunters.
Yeah.
Oh, that's see, those
Yeah.
are the little stories that I don't know, right? Because
Yeah.
you guys are off doing that. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I can
My
remember being in
gosh.
that Jeep going up and down and stopping and catching frogs and putting them in the Jeep and away we went.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we have entertained everybody a little bit. Hopefully maybe you've learned how to make a mouse bucket. If not,
Yes.
let us know. We'll
I'll
we'll
make a
give you the ins and
tutorial
outs of how to.
video for you.
They are foolproof, man.
They
They
really
work
are.
every time.
They work amazing.
They work out in the middle of the bush. They work in the middle of the city. Hey, Ainsley,
Oh yeah.
in a house in the middle of the city.
Yep.
Yeah, and all the fun ways you can get rid of all those lovely pests.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap it up here because
Yes.
it's Sunday. I'm going to go golfing today. I'm very
She's
excited. I'm
going
meeting up with a
golfing.
couple of girlfriends tonight or today. So I can't wait to go do that today with them. And yeah, so thank you so much for
Yes.
tuning in to Second Saturday.
Make sure you like and subscribe. We're here every week. I'm telling you.
Do it. We're here every week.
If you
Every
want
week.
more
We're getting close to a
random
year
stories,
too.
I
Hey,
know we're what we're not we're 8 weeks away.
40. Yeah,
8 weeks away
it's
from a
crazy.
year. That is crazy. 8 more episodes.
I know. I'm going to have to rewatch the first one, I think,
Yeah.
and see what's the difference. Well, I'm not as hopped up on sugar, I can tell you that, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you guys have a great Sunday, and
Yes.
we will see you next Sunday.
Bye.
Toodles.